indefinite strike action by JUSUN, which started today. I have in the studio with me Barrister Jide Ologun, who is a legal practitioner. Thank you so much for joining us. He's going to be shedding a lot of light on some of the controversies and some of the demands of JUSUN. It is the judicial union workers, I believe Judiciary Staff Union of Nigeria. They are demanding a 70,000 national minimum wage. They want a salary increase of up to 35%. What more are they demanding from the government, and is any of this demands out of place?
Thank you very much. The demands are not out of place. In fact, the major concern here now is the failure of the government to keep to agreed terms, and it's quite frustrating to JUSUN. And let me lay a foundation that this is not the first time JUSUN is going on strike. In year 2021, towards the financial autonomy for the judiciary, they also went on strike. And in the labor environment, the strike has been endorsed as a means of making stakeholders to ensure that there is equity, there is fairness, there is justice, and it's also endorsed by the International Labour Organization. So why it's now difficult to implement what is agreed upon is a big question, and you can see how embarrassing this is right now, and it's been quite effective. And I must commend the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Honorable Justice Kudirat Kekereekun, that was able to persuade the Supreme Court chapter to pull out of this. But it's quite embarrassing, and I hope that we will learn from all these experiences to project into the future. Imagine, in the difficult economy that we have right now, even the 70,000 naira minimum wage does not meet the expectations of the ILO that prescribes that wage should be decent, should be able to earn workers decent living. And even Section 16 of the Nigerian Constitution 1999, as amended, prescribed reasonable living minimum wage. And so here we are now, strike and strike and strike again. And when will all this end is the big question we are having.
As a legal practitioner yourself, how critical is the role of judiciary workers to the judiciary itself?
You know, like I said, the judiciary is associated with justice. So where else should we find the manifestation of justice, if not in that sector of our national life? And as a member of the Charter of Personnel Management of Nigeria, I've done some studies on the history of human resource management, and I can tell you the foundation is still what is plaguing us. It's a foundation of master-servant relationship. In fact, the first recorded industrial action in Nigeria took place in January 1920, by the Mechanics Union of the Nigerian Railway Corporation. And today, we are still on it. In 1945, the Pa Michael Umodu led a major strike in Nigeria. In 1981, Pasumono led one to concretize the recognition of minimum wage in our national law. So it's quite challenging that years down the line, we are still where we are, not being able to lubricate the engine of productivity in the country. And my particular concern here is that I'm of the personal opinion that we are grooming corruption, because when those who are expected to support the justice system, the judiciary, to function effectively, are put under financial stress like this, what do you expect? Perhaps that is why you have all the delays in the processes and different kinds of stumbling blocks and obstacles that are presented.
Speaking of support for the judiciary, last year the president signed a bill to increase the salaries of the CJA and justices of the Supreme Court, as well as the president of the Court of Appeal, by up to 300%.
Yes.
Do you think the judiciary workers were looking around and thinking, hey, Mr. President, how about us? I mean, come up with a plan.
Yeah, that also applies. It's just the same scenario we have in the country where the majority of the citizens are asked to tighten their belts, and yet there are some classes of citizens who earn 21 million naira per month. So that imbalance is there. But like I said, it's always been this master-servant relationship, and we need to migrate from there. But I'm not so surprised when you look at some other encounters in the country, particularly with respect to the government itself in trying to make some basic infrastructural provisions for development in the country. For instance, you read about the federal government owing Gencos and going ahead to spend about 10 billion naira to install solar power in Aso Villa. So these are issues that should bother us as a nation, realizing that we gained our political independence in 1960. But I do not see this labor conflict going away easily unless we go back to set up a new mindset in industrial relations management in the country, which we respect the stakeholders within that ecosystem. Because why should it be that even towards achieving the 70,000 naira minimum wage in the country, we witnessed the strike. At the time, the national grid was shut down, and the government was alleging that that was treasonable in a way. Must it be that you fight and shout and jump and protest before these things are attended to? And on arrival, even the president of NLC, Ajero himself, lamented that they probably should not have settled for the 70,000 naira, because if you convert that 70,000 naira to dollars, I think it's just about $34 per month. So where do we go from here? So we really need to wake up as a nation and ask the big question: where are we heading? Are we heading towards development? And if that is the case, we need justice.
Let's speak to the division in JUSUN. As you see, one side of it is championing the indefinite strike. It is currently in effect. Meanwhile, the NJC chapter is saying that we're not going to join you. How is that going to impact the outcome of this strike and the demands from the government?
Basically, at the end of the day, I hope the government is willing to honor agreed terms and conditions. So it's not new when you have this break in ranks. When ASU proceeded on strike in year 2022 or thereabout, the government had to empower another body within the academia to frustrate the actions of ASU. In fact, at the time, the Minister of Labor went to the National Industrial Court to ask the court to interpret Section 43 of the Trade Dispute Act of 2004, which came up with the decision that no work, no pay. You see, and when we now focus on symptoms and we are not dealing with the fundamentals, it will continue. Maybe in another 5 months or 7 months, we strike on another issue, because right now, even as threatened recently to go on strike. And I just mentioned the case of year 2022, because at the end of the day, even when ASU returned back to work, before they did, many of them already jackpot out of the country. So we need to look at the effect of this on the intended development of the nation. So whether you break the ranks or not, the issues will remain. So why won't the federal government sit up and decide to focus on developing this country? I don't want to bore us with the minimum wages of other countries. You talk of Egypt, you talk of Mauritius and some other countries, you'll be amazed. So we need to face the reality.
Absolutely.
What is the economic reality that these personalities that you expect should help you in being productive are subjected to? And that's why I said we may be grooming corruption, because how do you expect them to cope? Right. Particularly when even they are being old. It's not the best way to go.
Barrister Jide Ologun, we're going to have to leave this conversation there for now. Thank you so much for coming to the studio to discuss this very important matter. We really appreciate you.
Yeah.